David Rose told me that he knew Shahzad Akbar. It's about £250,000. David Rose, another lawyer, was with Shahzad Akbar. David Rose still writes to me, what do you want? He said, well, I've got a big mortgage. I said, fine, I'll settle it. It's about £250,000. You should see his text messages.
The meeting took place in your home with David Rose?
Yeah, my house, yeah. He started becoming a hostile person towards me. We have to seize aircraft. We have to seize assets.
For the first time in Royal Garden Hotel. So was David Rose also there?
He wanted a discount. How come you're involved in Broadsheet? I said, I am Broadsheet. What's in it for him? And I said, well, what do you want? He said, well, I have a big mortgage. David Rose told me that he knew Shahzad Akbar. So we met at my house and we had a chat about that. And he said he would organize a meeting. And he did. So we had what was in it for him? I said, well, he could, he said he had a big mortgage. I said, well, if I'm paid, you can settle it. And we shook hands that I would settle his mortgage. And I said, I'd be happy to do that. And that was it.
Whose mortgage are we talking about?
David Rose. His house had a mortgage, he said. And then he said that, what's in it for him? And I said, well, what do you want? He said, well, I have a big mortgage. I said, well, I'll settle it. I think it was about £250,000 or something. I said I would settle that, if you could arrange, because I said to him, frankly, I have to spend that kind of money on lawyers and enforcement anyway. But if you settle this thing, then your mortgage will be settled. So that's how we left it.
David Rose wanted his mortgage to be settled if there could be a deal between you and Pakistan, right?
It went like this, and in the conversation he had told me that he knew Mr. Shahzad Akbar, and then he said to me, what's in this for me? And I said, what do you want? He said, well, I've got a big mortgage. I said, fine, I'll settle it. So if I was paid the money, then there would have been a certain proportion of it for me, and I would have paid him it would have been his commission.
So David Rose wanted a commission?
He wanted a commission, which would have been his mortgage, yes.
Like he wanted maybe, if the whole deal was settled, he would have wanted maybe 250,000.
Approximately. I wouldn't know what his mortgage was unless he told me that. He told me that it was about that.
And what happened after that? David Rose arranged your meeting with Shahzad Akbar, and when did the actual meeting between you and Shahzad Akbar happen for the first time? When and where?
In October 2019, we met in the Royal Garden Hotel, and then we didn't get very far. Then another meeting was set up with another friend, this time a trusted friend, and then we didn't get very far, and that was it.
So you met for the first time in Royal Garden Hotel. So was David Rose also there?
There was David Rose, as another lawyer was with Shahzad Akbar, yeah. There's four of us. We had lunch together, yes.
Where was that?
Sorry?
Where was that?
That was in October 2019.
In Royal Garden Hotel?
Yes.
And what was discussed during that meeting?
Well, initially, I said, well, I'm happy to meet you, and I hope that finally I'm meeting somebody sensible from NAB, as opposed to crooks like Anjum Dar and all these other people. You actually are a minister, and you have some human rights credentials from Guantanamo Bay. I'd done some work on Guantanamo Bay prison and habeas appeals and all that, and in fact I set up the conference in Oxford which led to those appeals. I said to him, look, my agenda is to discuss the money that was sent to Singapore. He showed no interest. My further agenda was the attempt to shake us down, and to this fake general. I'm sure he wasn't a general, this Mr. Malik, and he showed no interest in that. He simply wanted a discount. Give me a discount and I will settle this for you. I said, it's not a settlement. We've got a judgment. Settlement comes before a judgment. What are you talking about? So I called our lawyers in Washington, and they came in. They said, look, we're obviously not getting very far with this guy, but impress upon him that we will enforce. If we have to seize aircraft, we have to seize assets, we'll do it. We'll seize the proceeds of bonds that Pakistan has floated on the market before they pay the bond holders. We'll do all this. I said to Shahzad Akbar, look, after 19 years of pursuing this, you surely should have no illusions that I will press this home. And so I suggest you come and pay the court order. Not a settlement. It's not a question of settlement. Settlement would have been before we had to go to court, before we'd had to spend millions on lawyers and all that. This was not a settlement, but we didn't get very far.
In the Royal Garden Hotel, David Rose was there. So did David Rose make any contribution? I mean, what was his involvement during those 2 to 3 hours meeting?
He gave some formulas that possibly we could work together on in the future and all this sort of thing. I said, yes, we can, but this has to be settled now. This has to be settled now. He tried to be creative, and then when it didn't work, afterwards he became very offensive in his texts and all this kind of thing. So
Who became offensive?
David Rose later became very offensive in his emails, in text messages to me. I found it quite incredible that this was a man I trusted because of the Guantanamo Bay connection, and then I found that I certainly don't trust him today.
What was the issue then? Why did it become
The issue was the 180-degree change of position. Here's a man who's saying he was trying to settle this thing, and I'd said to him, yes, I'll help him settle his mortgage. And the reality was that he started becoming a hostile person towards me. You should see his text messages. It's quite extraordinary.
What was the issue in those text messages?
That's what I like to know.
He was actually looking for his own commission.
Well, I was quite shocked not at that. I mean, it's a legitimate thing. If you can arrange a business deal, you're entitled to a commission. That's just fine. I don't have a problem with that. What I do have a problem is when he saw that the person I was dealing with across the table was not prepared to respect a court judgment. He was not interested in the least in pursuing the $1 billion that's the topic of discussion. He was not interested in the least bit in the question of the attempt to shake me down at the Café Rouge Hotel. This is supposed to be a serious journalist, and the other man is supposed to be a serious human rights lawyer who's fighting for the cause of against corruption in Pakistan. And the fact that Mr. Rose started going hostile towards me after that was quite a shocker to me. Up to that point, I clearly considered him a friend and I trusted him. And then I realized, well,
it was Zafar Ali QC, Dr. Paks and Shahzad Akbar who had approached you, and then they met you. But this is completely new. The meeting took place in your home with David.
Yeah, at my house, yes. He came to my house, yes.
Who made the first approach? Was it you or was it David Rose who wanted to meet?
The conversation went like this, I know him, and they really want to settle with you. I said, well, why do they have to send you? They can just write to me. And he said, well, they just want to establish trust. I said, you don't need trust, you just need to send a check. He said, well, okay, I will organize a meeting for you with Shahzad Akbar. I said, fine. And then he asked, what's in it for me? I said, well, what do you want? And he said, I've got a big mortgage. I said, fine, I'll settle it. How much is it? It's about £250,000. I said, well, they owe me around $30 million. So, yeah, I'm happy to give you a commission. I'll clear that with the lawyers, and, and if they don't approve, then I will pay that of my share, which is not a significant amount, but, just around the corner from here.
So David Rose is your neighbor?
Well, he's not directly neighbor, but he's very near. He's within earshot, should we say.
What happened during your second meeting with Shahzad Akbar? Was David Rose there or not, or who else was there?
There was another lawyer, David Rose. Not the second meeting, no. There was Shahzad Akbar and the same lawyer who'd been at the Royal Garden Hotel. He was there with another friend of ours, a mutual friend who remains a very respected friend, a serious human rights lawyer committed to the cause of the universe, as opposed to these people. Yeah, we met, and again he said, give me a discount. The lawyer friend tried to convince me to simply take our costs and go, and I said no, it won't happen. Then I sent a text to Shahzad. I said, you've just shown the contempt you have for the rule of law. You summoned me to come from Oxford on a rainy day like this. I come here and I sit with you and you waste my time, So I just have to enforce, which is what I did.
So when did your contact with Shahzad Akbar completely finish?
I think it was 26th of October, of 2019.
He never contacted you again?
No.
And when did your contact with David Rose finish?
David Rose still writes to me and he tries to bait me into saying things. His last text to me was, have you lost your marbles and are you not able to communicate with words? You just send emojis. And I simply wrote back and said, how depressing it is to see how much you have fallen from the days when you were a serious journalist doing Guantanamo Bay work. Is this what Daily Mail does to people? I have utter contempt for the Daily Mail, needless to say. And needless to say, for journalists who work at the Daily Mail.
What was his exact issue when he said, oh, have you lost your marbles? What was it about? Was it about the broadsheet with Pakistan? Broadsheet case related to Pakistan or something else?
Well, his contact with me was about Broadsheet to Pakistan. Yeah, of course. He said
That's it.
Yeah.
So
He'd written an article about Avonfield Apartments in the Daily Mail,
Yeah.
and I saw it, and I sent a note to him. Said it's a great article, but is there more evidence than this? Because if you want evidence, we certainly dug into, and then that's how the conversation got going. To me, how come you're involved in Broadsheet? I said, I am Broadsheet, for God's sake. What are you talking about? And he went and looked. He said, oh my God, you really are Broadsheet. I said, well, Broadsheet is a liquidator, but So we got talking, and then he said that he knows the new people, and I think he genuinely was offering good offices in order to settle the matter, and I don't begrudge him for wanting his mortgage paid. I really don't. It's perfectly legitimate if he's asking. I don't know whether he would have told his employers or not, but that's the way it was. So that's how it ended. Daily Mail is not exactly my what I read every morning for breakfast. I'm a Guardian reader.